It's an unusual family farm business that can, at the end of a 10-year drought, walk out and buy another property to increase their assets to support an extra family on the property. It's very impressive the way they've managed and continue to manage into the future with their planning.
We're always making changes. I suppose we'd like to look outside the square and see what else we can do at all times. I guess doing the holistic management course confirmed some of the things we were already doing and made us think that we were actually on the right track rather than guessing. We have extensive wetlands here. We've got frontage to the Maori Creek, the Murmaggill Creek, the Mugabar Creek, Box Creek, Lachlan River, Torrigeni Creek. So the environment is very important to the managing the property. The whole lot's 150,000 acres. And we've got a diverse type of rangelands in that we've got saltbush plains, we've got grasslands, we've got extensive water creek systems. We've got the custodian of the ibis rookery and the Bullingall wetlands, which is one of the largest ibis breeding colonies in the southern hemisphere. The glossy ibis and the straw-necked ibis are both covered by international conventions, and both of them nest here at Bullingall on our wetland. This year there are 60,000 pairs of birds nested there and raised about 120,000 chicks. We've fenced off a couple of hundred hectares with some Lachlan Catchment Management funding. They contributed to the fencing. That area, although we're allowed to graze it, we don't graze it. It's a conservation area now and we don't intend to put stock in there. It's purely for the benefit of the birds. The birds require large lignum bushes to make their nests on. Everyone in this district, and us included, were set stocking, which means you just put stock out in the paddock and they eat the best plants until they disappear. And I'd noted that the stocking rates have been diminishing and that decline was continuing, and there must be a better way of managing the pastures so that we had greater production and we could arrest that decline. So we've gone to a system where we're moving our stock about every month. 3/4 of our property is being spelled at any one time and 1/4 of the property is being stocked at 4 times the normal rate. So at the end of the day, our stocking rate's the same. Our pastures are improving because they're being spelled and those most valuable plants aren't being eaten out. We go out regularly and have a look, not just at the ground cover, but also the biodiversity. And the biodiversity is increasing because the plants that are most palatable aren't getting grazed out. The main benefits from the pasture point of view is an increase in perennial species, and particularly salt bushes, which is the backbone of a lot of this area. We also record in a program called Farm Keeper, and the program automatically calculates the number of dry sheep equivalent grazing days per hectare that come out of that paddock. And that's a really good way of monitoring to see whether a paddock's been overgrazed or undergrazed, and it helps you to think about how long you're going to have the stock in the paddocks or which ones they might go to. We've been selecting our merino sheep for fertility for longer than any other commercial property in Australia. We started over 20 years ago selecting sheep for fertility, and now our sheep are some of the most fertile sheep in Australia. If we don't get 100% in the drought, we're asking ourselves why we haven't got 100% of lambs. We've culled all sheep that fail to rear a lamb at lamb marking. Every year, regardless of whether it's their first lamb, there's no second chances. If they don't rear a lamb at lamb marking, they're gone. We started ultrasounding probably before too many other flocks were ultrasounded. It was one of the first flocks to be ultrasounded. And we divide our sheep up into those that are having twins and those that are having singles. And that's another way of promoting a greater genetic gain in the fertility. This plant here is called bushy groundsel. On the recent plant identification day, most people thought it was a weed. But we find it a very useful plant. We graze our dorpers on it, they actually love it, and fatten on it. It doesn't do them any harm whatsoever. If cattle eat it, they die pretty well straight away. It's very, very toxic to cattle. But the dorpers think it's absolutely lovely. Water supply here, we have a pump on the river, about 20 kilometres behind me, another pump back at Tom's Lake, and another one at Torrigeni, and the 3 pumps pump into 150 kilometres of pipeline to supply the water to the trough. The troughs are distributed around the paddock fairly evenly, so that the stock spread out over the whole paddock and we have even grazing pressure. And we very particularly keep the pipe sizes relatively small, so that when you have a burst pipe, you don't lose all your water and the stock don't run out of water. Everything we do out here is different. It's just not necessarily better. That's for others to judge, but we don't do too many things conventionally out here.